What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down a great wide receiver football IQ quiz to test your knowledge of the position. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you're a receiver and you guys would like a daily workout schedule for wide receivers in the gym and on the field with specific things like Monday you're doing this workout, Tuesday you're doing this, check out this very first link in the description below for our ultimate 8-week wide receiver workout plan. It's over 500 plus total wide receiver drills, gym exercises, all mapped out over the course of 2 months with the exact sets and reps to do and video examples of each drill on the field. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested in that, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So now, first things first here, if you're not familiar with our wide receiver quiz type videos, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be showing a pre-snap look, asking you a series of questions about the route that the receiver is going to run, the defense, whatever it is. I'm going to give you a chance to pause the video and think about your answer, and then we'll break down why your answer is correct or why it is wrong. So first example here, if you have a MOR fade, what does MOR mean? MOR means mandatory outside release, right? So MOR, mandatory outside release. Let's say this is not a mandatory outside release situation, and we're going to talk about that in a second here after I ask you guys this question. Say it's not a mandatory outside release situation. How would you guys run a fade route versus this specific coverage? So not an MOR. How would you guys run a fade versus this coverage? So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answer. So pause the video. All right, let's break it down. So fact of the matter, I said not an MOR, right? Non-mandatory outside release. An MOR is usually a situation where the receiver is running a fade route and the slot receiver tight end is running some kind of outside breaking route, like a 5-yard out or maybe a 10-yard out. So our goal with the outside release is to try to turn this DB's hips out of there so he can't sit and try to jump a play to the out route, right? So he's our read key on that. That's why we go outside. Now, if it's not a mandatory outside release fade, what situation would that be? That would be like fades, seams, whatever. Now, if you could get the outside release, we obviously want to take an outside release anytime that I can on a fade route. But versus this specific coverage, what leverages this DB? He is outside shade, right? So when he's outside shade, what's his goal being outside shade? Take away the outside, which is the route that I have to run, a fade route. So if I try to just ride and out to the outside, or if I close space and try to give a move to the inside, this DB is going to hold his leverage. We're going to have a tough time getting around him, and he is going to get hands and squeeze me to the sideline. So that's what this, and I truly believe that this is not a mandatory outside release situation right here from what Hopkins does. So if you guys said that you want to try to attack him, give him a move inside, and then take the inside release and work to stack, you have to stack if you're going to do this. That would be correct. So let's watch what Hopkins does here. So he comes off the ball. He closes space with the guy. He gives a little move inside, but he forces the outside release. And you see the hand contact. He was lined up with a reduced split. He was to the right of the numbers. And I want you to see where he ends up on this thing. He ends up all the way to this sideline, right? And that's only because he forced the outside release versus outside shade press. This would be no different on a comeback, an out route, a corner route, if you forced it. Sometimes with fades, guys get carried away and they think that I always have to release outside. You don't, unless it's a mandatory outside release, which is why I prefaced this question with that. So let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Fellas, we should always attack, give a move, take the inside release, unless I have to release to the outside. That's great defense here from this DB and a great job keeping his leverage, squeezing that receiver to the sideline. Okay, so now, next example here. So I'll give this away because it's a little bit tough to see. This DB has outside leverage, okay? So if we got a DB and outside shade press, but you're on the goal line, think about that. You are on the goal line. You are not on the goal line, but you're like inside 6 yards, right? So it's definitely tight red zone situation. How would you guys run a 10-yard out? So how would you run a 10-yard out versus this outside leverage press look, but we are on the goal within the 5-yard or within the 10-yard line, okay? So you guys go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So the goal line thing does not matter. The fact that we were inside the 10-yard line does not matter. How you would run this route would be the exact same way in open field, and it would be the exact same way inside the 10. So let's play this thing full speed. So you see how Odell, he attacks this DB to the outside. That's his leverage, right? Remember, DB is trying to take away the outside route. He wants to force everything to the inside because what does he probably have to the inside? Probably has safety help. So if you're running right to his safety help, good. If you have to run a post route, great. You're going right into his safety and he's right on your hip because it is still man-to-man coverage. So if you have to run this out route, you would want to try to attack him outside and take the inside release. If that's what you guys said, that would be correct. Now, top of the break is where it gets a little tricky, right? Because our goal, just like on that fade route, if we were to take the inside release, is to do what? Where are we trying to get? We were trying to stack over the top of the DB. I want him trailing my back hip, and I want him running behind me, right? So that's what Odell does. He takes this inside release. He's here. He's able to stack over the top, get him trailing, gives a move, and you see the reason why we take the inside release and that DB's outside shade is so at the break point, we have room for the quarterback to throw us open. Remember, spacing is key on every single route versus press coverage. And see, we gave the quarterback room. If you give the quarterback room to throw you open, to have some space for you to be able to accelerate out of the break, it is tough for a DB to guard. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What if I can't restack him? What do I do at the top of the break? So, like, let's say, for example, instead of him being there, like, let's say Odell was like a step back here. You would take your inside arm, or your outside arm, excuse me, and you would place it on the back of his shoulder, the back of his hip, and you would slip under him. The quarterback would rather have the break be maybe a touch slower, not a ton slower, a touch slower, and have room to throw you open than you to force a release just so you could break off of 1 foot, not have to throw by and have no space, because then he's not going to throw the ball to you anyways. So this is a textbook routing from Odell. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job taking the inside release, stacking over the top, and giving a great move at the break point. Okay, so now, next example here. Question is going to be, how would you guys run a hitch and go? So it would be just a simple hitch and go versus this specific coverage. How would you guys run a hitch and go versus this specific coverage? So you guys go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So now, anytime that you're running a double move versus a form of man coverage, whether it's press man right on the line, whether it's like this catch technique look where he's maybe about 4 or 5 yards away, you would have to run it exactly like how you would run the normal, regular first move versus that specific coverage look. So how would you guys run a hitch route? DB's sitting right at 4 to 5. How would you guys run a 5-yard hitch versus this DB? It's a lot like a diamond release slant. You would run right at his outside shoulder and outside hip for 5 yards. The goal would be to self-fade. The goal would be to run with long strides, good body language. By that, I mean you're in a slight forward lean and your hips and your shoulders are slightly are committed vertical, if that makes sense, right? So our goal would be to try to get him to open up his hips and then we put the brakes on. So that's how I got to run my double move. So let's watch what A.J. Brown does here. If that's what you guys said, that would be correct. Now he puts the brakes on, gets the DB to hesitate for a sec, gets him by a step. Ball was unfortunately overthrown on this, but that is exactly how you'd want to run that route. Make it look the same. If you had inside shade press, and let's say you had to run a sluggo route, how would you run a slant versus inside shade press? You'd attack this DB's outside shoulder, outside hip for 3 steps and break to the slant. So if you had to do that, if you had to run a slant and go, you would run it the same way. He's inside shade. I'd go 3 hard steps, get him to flip. I'd slip under, then I'd break up vertical. You have to make it look the same. Even when it's against press coverage, you should run the route the exact same way. So if that's what you guys said, that would be 100% correct on this hitch and go. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like our 8-week wide receiver gym and on-field workout schedule, over 8 weeks of wide receiver daily gym exercises, field drills, 500+ things that you guys can do on there. Check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you on that. I'll see you guys next time.